Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in. Bobby, welcome in, man. How's it going, man? Oh, we got lots to talk about today. Just kind of give an insight to today's itinerary. So we're going to be discussing Project Fuchsia, a completely different operating system from Android itself. Being developed by Google still till today, being still in development. We're going to talk about Android Go and what happened to that. Yo, John, what's going on, man? Welcome in. So we're going to talk about Android Go as well. And then new requirements for YouTube partnership. This I just found out about, so I added it to the mix because I think that there's content creators that are, trying to break into the partnership program, trying to be able to monetize their videos and trying to be able to make some money off what they do. And I want to give people a heads up on it. So all that in today's video. I'll give it like a couple more minutes to allow more people to come in, because we're first going to talk about the YouTube partnership program. I think that's probably one that, more people want to hear about, that are, inspiring content creators and, wanting to get their feet wet. And so I figured I would talk about that, and then we'll get into Project Fuchsia and Android Go. We'll do Android Go after, and then Project Fuchsia is the final story of today's podcast, and pretty much wraps it up on that. So as you're coming in, feel free to say hi. Again, Bobby and John, welcome in. Appreciate you guys for being here. Those that are coming in right now, feel free to say hi as well. And I'll pop your comment up on the screen. And just to kind of keep everything kind of focused, right? Like I have my other Pixel book over here that I'm going to be actually grabbing information from. I'm not going to screen share or anything like that whatsoever. But that's just for like the Project Fuchsia stuff, because there's a lot going on with Fuchsia. It's I think the last major push for Project Fuchsia was loading it into the Google Home smart displays. Was like the last major big push that I've heard about Project Fuchsia. Maybe there's a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, because apparently this operating system is also supposed to make its way to Chromebooks, which both my Pixel Book OG and then the Pixel Book Go, both of those are Chromebooks. So they should be seeing this, possibly. Like I said, we'll get more into that. That's the final story of today's podcast. Okay, so lead into the newest of the stories, YouTube partnership program. Okay, there's a lot of inspiring content creators that I've seen over the past 2 years, and I'm not passing judgment on them or the things that they've done, you know what I mean? But like, everybody that kind of steps up to this whole YouTube partnership program comes in guns blazing and everything like that. They're ready to do it. They're gung-ho, ready to get those subscribers, ready to get those watch times, and they want to, they want to do it because they want to get into the partnership program, because they definitely hold on. For this question right here, I can't answer that. So there's just not a lot I can answer on that. So sorry, Bobby. So the partnership program has become laxed quite a bit. You guys are actually going to be in shock of what the requirements are now. See, before, at least the days in the days when I was accepted into the YouTube partnership program, there wasn't any prerequisites that was needed to be in there. Literally, you had to do daily uploads, and you would submit your application for it. And it took a little bit of time for them to review your channel, but then I got the email back that said, hey, you're in. And then, I had to go through the steps of setting up an AdSense account, setting up my payout method. And long and behold, it took some time, but, as my channel was growing little by little, like it started off like every 2 months I was getting paid, because you have to hit a threshold. You have to make over $100 in order to get paid out. And from since then on, it's grown. And so that was during my days. After that, they decided to make it where you had to earn your ability to become a YouTube partner. And that was where you had to have 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours watch time, and I think that was it. Really, was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watch time. A little bit over time, that changed a little bit, especially when they introduced YouTube Shorts. Then they started having it to where you had to have 1,000 subscribers, you had to have either 4,000 hour watch time, or you needed 10 million views on Shorts. So, I mean, 10 million views is quite a bit. But I mean, they're YouTube Shorts, right? So they kind of cycle fast like TikToks. So that was the requisites for back then. What up, Blaze? Welcome in. If you're still in here, welcome in. And we got Baby Yoda in the building. But nonetheless, that has changed. YouTube has brought those down quite a bit. So the new requirements to actually be able to apply for YouTube partnership and to be accepted is as follows. You have to have 500 subscribers. You have to have at least uploaded 3 videos I think it's in the last 90 days. So that's 3 videos in the last 90 days, 500 subscribers, and I believe it's 3,000 hour watch time or 7 million views on Shorts, right? So like the uploads, I could be wrong on the upload times. I don't know if it's 90 days or 30 days, but yeah, you do have to have like 3 active uploads, and they can consist of 3 videos that you posted up. It can consist of 2 videos and 1 shorts that you posted. It can be 1 video and 2 shorts, but you have to have at least uploaded, like 1 video and then 2 other videos, either they're shorts or videos as is. Plus have 500 subscribers, plus have 3,000 hour watch time. Now, if you want to know, really, I mean, if your video is viable enough to get somebody to watch it from beginning to end, if you make, 1 video 15 minutes long and you get 4 people to watch it from beginning to end, that's already 1 watch hour on YouTube. So just imagine if you're consistently pumping out videos, you may not be making 15-minute videos. You may not be having people stay from the beginning of the video to the end of the video. But, if you're making videos consistently every day, you will hit that mark. It's not going to be a problem to do that. So like what you can do really at this point, Blaze, would you say that you qualify on everything, but you don't have the watch hours? What I would do is like every video that you have posted, right? Share those out back into social media. Like you cannot be self-conscious to the fact that you're afraid that people are going to flame you if you're like posting links to a video that you're proud of that you made, and you're posting it once a week on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook and on the method to my madness, and this is probably, I don't know if anyone's actually figured this out yet, but the reason why that I'm on various different social media platforms is really to share the links to my videos on different platforms in hopes that people check it out, watch it, because it adds to my view time. And the view time is like the most important thing, on 2 reasons why view times is the most important thing on YouTube. 1, obviously, that people are watching your video. It counts towards your watch time. And 2, you're getting the view. And if you are already in the partnership program and you are monetizing your videos, well, then every view counts. When they have the ads run in the beginning of the videos, whether it's skippable ads or not, the first 15 seconds of your YouTube video is crucial. And what's considered that, from advertisement, that they viewed things, because ads are placed in the beginning of videos. This is why that when YouTube made it possible for us to insert our own ads, especially in these live stream, 1 hour length podcasts, you started seeing a trend where everyone was like putting an ad every 10 minutes, like manually inserting ads every 10 minutes because they wanted ads to run throughout the entire podcast. And it was considered, right? Because in order for you to make money on YouTube, you literally had to, with the advertisements, they counted it where it was like CPM. CPM basically is how much they're going to pay per 1,000 views, right? So if your video gets 1,000 views and the CPM for that specific genre of video, let's hypothetically say it was $30 for every 1,000 views, then you just made $30 on one video for getting 1,000 views. Now imagine if that one video went viral. $30 for every 1,000 views, and that viral video of yours that you made in like 1 week garnered 5.6 million views, right? You do the math on what you're getting paid per 1,000 views. $30 per 1,000 views, and you got 5.6 million views in 1 week on that video, right? And that's just one video. Now just imagine if you're uploading daily and all your videos are like viral hits and you're getting 5 million views per video every day. And it's $30 on the CPM for every 1,000 views of that video with the ad running in it. You're going to get paid $30 for every 1,000 views. Now, you take that daily amount that you just calculated for 5.6 million on one video, and you multiply that by 30, because if you're dropping a video every day of the month, then that's 30 days in the month, sometimes 31 days. But you do the math, and that is your residual. That is your residual kickback. That is your residual kickback for the videos. Now, you know, on the whole YouTube thing, when people see RPM, like what is RPM and CPM? And I already explained what CPM is. To elaborate on RPM is that if you don't hit that 1,000 views marks, it's basically the percentage of the amount of views that you got on that video. So let's say like $30 per 1,000 view is what the ad company is going to pay for their ad in your video, and say you only hit 657 views, right? The RPM is pretty much like what you're going to get paid, because they're still going to pay you. Just because you didn't hit 1,000 views doesn't mean that they're not going to pay you for their ad being in your video. They got to pay you, but they're not going to pay you the full $30 that you would have gotten if you got 1,000 views on that video. So the RPM pretty much says like what is the ratio percentage since you didn't hit that mark. And to elaborate on that question, because someone may actually ask it, and it's not a dumb question, but you know, just to that way I have the answer out there for people. If you got 2,000 views on that video, then yes, you would get paid $60, right? For every 1,000 views, they're paying you $30 for every 1,000 views on that video with their ad in it. So if you get 5,000 views, 30 times 5, right? So, you know, that's just on the more realistic side of things, of just like how, like, you know, the AdSense and everything like that runs. But the fact is that if you're an inspiring content creator and you really want to do this for a living, and, you know, your first video you made is a hit, you know, just upload 2 more videos, make sure you get to 500 subscribers, make sure you get to, you know, 3,000 hours watch time, or 7 million views on your YouTube shorts if you're a short form creator. And that gets you acceptable into the YouTube partnership program. Once you meet all those prerequisites, you basically go to the YouTube partnership program page, you apply, submit your application in. It's not going to happen instantly. Some people have reported that it took maybe like 3 business days, and then they got an email saying that they were accepted into the program. Others have stated that they had to wait like, you know, almost a month. So it just depends on when they get to your application. But if you meet those prerequisites, you're going to be accepted in. So, and don't do it just to become a YouTube partner and then drop making content and going to like 1 video a month type of thing, because that's ridiculous. Somebody else could have had that spot that was more serious in being a content creator. So I'm just putting that out there, not trying to be an asshole or anything. 2 out of your videos have 600 views. Okay. Is there a question behind that, or are you just stating that you have 2 videos that have about 600 views? Because that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Consider like comparing those 2 videos that you made 600, you know, got 600 views on, compared to what I normally get nowadays. What I get normally nowadays, average viewing, is like 98 views to 100 views, right? I'm not getting what I was getting 5 years ago, where I was getting 500, 600, 700, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 views. I wasn't getting that anymore. You know, not ever since things have changed on YouTube. And of course, the introduction of TikTok, which, you know, really just kind of took a mass viewing away. that I've dropped, and now like my average is just barely hitting 100 views. So for having 2 videos with 600 views, that's actually pretty good. So big thumbs up there. If in fact that Gene, you're asking, like if you're insinuating towards becoming a YouTube partner, I've already laid out the prerequisites. You got to meet all of those. Now the watch time, it's either or. It's either 7 million views or 3,000 watch hours. You're just mentioning it. Well, that's good. That is great. Good that 2 of your videos hit 600 and keep going, keep pushing forward. That's going to be, if you're serious about it, you're serious about making, content and stuff like that, then yeah, you got to switch it up too when you're making content, what's going on and doing these live streams and stuff like that is not the only thing that could be helping out. Like you also got to make content too. And sometimes people enjoy just a simple turn on the camera and record type videos. But sometimes they want to see something different. Like if you're always consistently doing the same type of video in the same way, you're not changing it up a little bit, you're not giving something different. It's like eating the same plate of food every single day. Eventually, you're going to get tired of the flavor. It's going to be boring, right? If you're eating cheeseburgers every day of your life, then yeah, hold on. The camera itself on the laptop, it makes me go dark when I lean further back. But, if you're eating cheeseburgers every day for an entire year, you're going to get so bored of cheeseburgers that if someone puts a taco in front of you, that's going to be like the most interesting thing ever. And you're going to enjoy the shit out of it because it's not a cheeseburger. So just think about it in that context. Like everyone has a creative mind. I think, the reason why that people don't really express their creativity all too much is because they care too much about how people are going to critique them. And I think, if you have a creative mind and you want to create something, not everyone's going to like it. You have to understand that. People are going to think it's dumb or stupid because everybody has a different perspective. So if you want to create something and in your mind it seems like a good idea, just fucking go for it. And who cares what the rest of the world thinks? You're going to get people that's going to say, yo, this video is stupid. I thumbs downed it. But you're also going to get people that are going to be like, yo, great video, thumbs up. People are going to be like, hey, man, I just thumbs up your video. I liked it. And I subscribed to you too, you cannot have the idea that everybody on YouTube is going to like your content and subscribe to you. If you put that type of expectation on you, you are doomed to fail. And then what I mean by doomed to fail is not fail because not everybody liked your video. You're doomed to fail because when you see the dislikes, it's going to discourage you. It's going to take a piece of that creativity that you have and it's going to make you lock it up inside. And little by little, it gets locked up. Eventually, your creativity is just not fucking there anymore. And when it's not there, you're just blandly putting shit together just to upload. Okay. I know I've been through it. Like when I speak of these things about YouTube, I'm not saying it like I read some 12-step program to tell you guys how to get on YouTube and do it. I'm telling you guys my experience, what I've done, my mistakes. Like when I was arrogant about shit, that was a very big mistake. When I overworked myself on YouTube till I burned myself out, that was a huge fucking mistake. And these things I'm telling you because I've lived it, so that's how I know. But yeah, I think, I know some people are taking issue with this. Some content creators are like, this is not good for YouTube. It's going to oversaturate YouTube far worse than what it already is. And, people are just going to suffer on the backbone of it, right? It's going to make people get in easily. And it's like, no, people are not going to get in easily. Like you can get 500 subscribers, quickly. You can get 3 videos uploaded quickly. Where it kind of makes you, pace your time is the 3,000 hours watch time or the 7 million views on your shorts. That's where it's going to kind of slow your momentum. I was like, if you made a 1 hour long video and it got 3,000 views, you would hit that. You would definitely hit that mark. Lemonade is good, but it also, to me. All right. Ooh, the heck. dark and goes light and goes dark. There we go. All right, so let's switch tracks a little bit. Let's talk about Android Go. Android Go operating system, a light version of Android. Basically intended for underpowered devices, intended for countries that don't have the technology to support super powerful devices. You know what I mean? And so Android Go was basically set out to just bring Android to these places, where the technology is not the greatest, right? And I think like one thing that like Android Go definitely, misfired on was creating a GSI that you can flash on an older device that is considered today to be underpowered. They never utilized that, which always left me questioning, like, why didn't they utilize this? Why didn't they go for this? Because there were a lot of devices out there that people like, and they would definitely go back to if it was able to have some of the most recent security updated in it, Cheap Android for junk devices, in my view. Yeah, I get where you're saying with it, because you use an iPhone, you use Pixels, you use Samsung Galaxy. Like, you're in America, Gene, so you can have that thought, like, it's for cheap junk Android devices, right? Now let's take it on a global scale, and let's go to places in Thailand that's more north of like the cities, right? So Chiang Mai and Bangkok, those places, obviously are going to have 5G LTE. They're obviously going to have, Samsungs and Oppo and all these, amazing and powerful devices sold there, right? But if you go like more north of Khon Kaen, or like along the Mekong River that separates Thailand and Burma, like in those villages and stuff like that, they don't have that type of technology there for them to even have a reason to have a very super powerful device, because it would be, the network out there and everything is underutilizing the power of those phones, right? So you're talking about country areas where houses are still built out of bamboo, wood, and they're standing on freaking 6-foot stilts, because king cobras, spitting cobras, and stuff like that are very prevalent in those areas. Those places, right? Very underdeveloped places and everything like that. So something like you would consider like a junk cheap Android device, to them would actually be like, whoa, this is pretty cool, right? But of course, you're not going to put a full-fledged operating system on a very underpowered device, right? We're not putting Android 14 on something that basically has, 512 megabytes of RAM. So that was the purpose of Android Go. So like the idea that I think most people kind of like misunderstood Android Go for, they took it as getting all the same experiences of full-fledged Android in a cheap price of like $40. And I always tell people to follow the money. If you buy something that is sold brand new retail for $40, you're going to get a $40 experience. It's way different than like if I was dumb enough to sell my Pixel 4 XL for $40, right? I mean, damn well know this is not a retail price $40 phone. But I'm talking about like something that's brand new. If you buy cheap, expect cheap. You can't buy cheap and expect it to run flawless like a flagship. That you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So I always reiterate that, because I see a lot of this talk on social media. I see a lot of this talk of like, oh yeah, this phone, the Ghost Pepper phone from Visible, it's trash, it's slow, and I should have had my iPhone. It's like, what the fuck were you expecting? If a phone sells for $700, and odds off chances it's going to give you a near experience to the Pixel, Samsung Galaxy S series, and iPhones. If you buy a phone and it's sub $100, that's what you're getting, is a sub $100 thing. This is why I made that video of $50 Android phone versus iPhone. I made it for that very reason. So if you haven't checked out that video, check it out after this podcast. It's the reason why that I put that video up, is for people to kind of like hear the idiocy in how we judge phones today and the type of ways that we're judging phones, right? If I'm like pissing people off, so fucking be it. I don't care. But Android Go, was initially made for those places where it's still slightly underdeveloped around the world. See, Android wants a big part of the, the big slice of the pie, right? Of the market out there, right? Their market share. That's what they're kind of looking at, right? When Android made its way into India, of course, Google was super excited because that is a very large market share they're gaining, right? And now Apple's tapping into it. Apple is pushing iPhones into India and places like that, which they didn't before because they want that part of the market share. Now you're talking about looking at places that are very underdeveloped. Like if you look on the continent of Africa and in some of those villages and places like that are still well underdeveloped, putting an Android phone in their hands and having it active and everything counts as an active user on Android. So if they're able to get, cheap devices because they know those places don't have a whole shit ton of money. But if they can get Android in those places, that's more active users using it, right? So if you take a very underpowered device and you make a light operating system version and throw that in there, then it counts as an active Android user, right? It's the same thing like if Apple did the same thing and created iOS, Lite. They did iOS Lite and they made a freaking $60 iPhone and put that in there. And yeah, it would count as an active Apple user. Yeah, that's what my $50 Android versus iPhone was all about. Was that, when you look at all these people that talk about Android being so slow compared to iOS, or so underdeveloped, or so much jank and so much jitter and everything like that, and then you look at the phone that they're comparing to the iPhone that they just recently got, and they're like, yeah, I was using this that I got from Cricket, and it was like $50 for the phone, and then you're comparing it to a freaking $900 iPhone, like. That's why my title said "Get Real." And I tell people, if you want to compare Android to an iPhone, you got to get, the latest Pixel device. You got to get the latest Galaxy S device. You have to have the latest iPhone, and to compare them to see how Android does towards iOS. Lately, Google's been really kind of going after Apple with all these best phones forever short clips they've been posting, which I find them to be hilarious, but it is making true talking points. Like those people that are getting offended because they feel like that Apple's being attacked and everything like that. Like, come on, man, this is advertisement. It's Google advertisement. Every advertising company does these type of aggressive advertisements, right? Burger King talks shit about McDonald talks shit about Burger King, and they both talk crap about Jack in the Box and Wendy's are going at it. It's all aggressive marketing campaign, and the best phones forever thing really just kind of puts that into perspective, right? When you see the different episodes of Best Phones Forever, which I find them to be entertaining, so definitely check them out on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of them, and it's like a mini series where Pixel 7 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro are hanging out together, and just the things that the iPhone says, or like even the one episode where they put the Pixel Fold in instead of the Pixel 7 Pro, and when the iPhone turned around and looked and realized that the Pixel Fold can unfold, and then they started talking about foldable technology, like all that stuff just really just like kind of made things interesting, but it was pointing out facts. The one that I resonate most with was the astrophotography episode, where Pixel was like literally talking about that. iPhone was like talking about it's envy over the Pixel because the Pixel can do things like astrophotography, and then the iPhone tried to do it and its flash was going off, and Pixel was like, "What are you doing? Are you signaling UFOs?" And then the iPhone's just like night mode. It was just really naming facts. But like Android Go was never meant to be something that we really ran here in the US. Okay. At the most level that Google even wanted this thing to be in the US was probably more than likely a phone for a kid, right? So like everybody's getting smartphones, even children are getting smartphones. And, if you have like a 7-year-old who lacks responsibility, because of their age, you can't expect that level of responsibility in a 7-year-old, getting a budget Android device running Android Go on it would probably make more sense, because there are levels of what Android OS can do that Android Go cannot do. That's the point. And so that would be the only case point that would make sense. Being being a grown adult and having social media and having all these other things that you do online, and then buying an Android Go phone just does not make sense. You're not going to get the same experience as a device running full-fledged Android. You're just not going to get that experience. It's always going to feel junk and whatever to you. Android Go doesn't need, a good amount of memory to run. It doesn't need, I don't want to say it doesn't need. It would be great to have ample storage, right? Because you know that the operating system lives on the storage itself. So if you have a 16 gigabyte internal storage, Android Go is probably like 4 gigs in size. So 4 gigs of that 16 gigs is already eaten by the system. You basically only have 12 gigs left, right? So it would be really cool if there was like a 128 gigabyte model of an Android Go device that had maybe like 1 gig of RAM. I wouldn't say go 512 megabytes of RAM itself, I would say minimum 1 gig. I know some people are going to probably jump the gun and be like, yo, minimum should be 4 gigs. Like now you're stepping into regular Android OS territory, because the amount of RAM that a phone has, more is better, I guess, considering like what types of stuff in background is running, because that's really all that what RAM is for. RAM is to be used. This is the reason why that, like, way back in the day, I used to campaign against RAM cleaners. Like people, like, you go into like, all these different carrier stores, and when you buy a device with them, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to put this cleaner on your thing. It's going to free up some RAM to make your phone run faster. Like, no, why? Like Android needs those processes in background to run. You kill them off, Android's just going to reopen all of them again. And you're now killing your battery quicker, because in order to relaunch all those processes, it's going to take power to do it. So now you're draining your battery faster because you're consistently killing off apps. Like app killers and stuff like that were just basically pointless. Android doesn't need your help. Okay, it can keep things running in background. It will this is why we have the AI in there that memorizes your usage, how you use your phone. And what it's recording, if you never knew, what it's actually recording is it's recording how you use your phone. Because if, like, let's say you're a heavy Facebook user, an Instagram user, and maybe YouTube user, but you got 15 apps open in background, it's going to make sure that memory process is allocated to those apps you use mostly, so you don't have to reopen the apps. See, there's a difference between you opening your smartphone, tapping on an app icon, and it opening for the first time and loading, and then when you swipe it away and you're doing something else, and you go back into your app drawer and you tap the same app you were using before. When it opens, you'll notice 2 things. One, it just opens exactly to where you left off earlier, which means that it sat in background. It was using memory to keep the process alive. Or if you have too many things open in background and it basically labeled that app as non-important, then it would completely close out the process to that app automatically. So when you open it again, it'll do the same way as it started up the first time, with the splash screen and loading, your information from the app. They random access memory. The point of memory is to be used. So this was the craziest thing ever. When I started seeing this especially way back in 2012, when people were like, yo, install Android Task Killer, install Android App Killer. Like, why are you doing that? Android was made to run with processes in background. And if you kill those processes, they're just going to reopen again. And if you had a rooted Android phone and you killed those processes and was able to keep those processes killed and froze until you launched it again, then you really had to be careful what you close, because, the clock widget obviously needs to run in background. You kill that process, how do you expect, your clock to function properly? The weather apps need to run in background to keep you updated on the weather. Otherwise, it's not going to run. There are processes that has to run in Android. That is how Android runs. Okay. If people really want to know the reason why that Android can be wonky sometimes, before I get into that, which leads into the next subject, let me close out this subject with Android Go. So My thing is that Google needs to back Android Go on a global scale. Okay, today places and technology is developing, especially in underdeveloped areas of the globe. So today, if I was to put a number on where I think hardware specifications should be for the Android Go software system, I would say, 64 gigabytes of internal storage. I would say 2 gigabytes of RAM is what would be like mid-level running on Android Go. Okay, if you decide to stick more RAM in an Android to Go device, so be it. I'm not going to argue against that. But these days, doing 512 megabytes of RAM is just not going to cut it. Also, they should let Android Go be in a GSI form to flash on older Android devices that do or are compatible of flashing in GSIs, which is just another way of saying custom ROM. It's not really a custom ROM in itself, but it's very similar to it. And because that allows people to revive things. Like, how cool would it be? And I got to bring this up. But how cool would it be if I was able to flash Android Go that had at least the main parts of Android 13? I'm not going to push it and say 14, but say Android 13 on the Nexus 4. How cool would that be if I had this on here? But that'd be sweet as hell. Of course, I would have to make some hardware changes on here. Like, one, I'd have to replace the modem, because the modem on the Nexus 4 only supports 3G, and I would need it to at least support LTE. I have a Pixel 7a, and it's not low end. Of course not. They built the Pixel 7a merely identical to the Pixel 7. There's like maybe just a few things that's different between them. And I mean a very few things. So getting that vape in. All right. And now to the final topic discussion, Project Fuchsia. So, as my question that I stated earlier, people wanted to know, why does Android sometimes act wonky? Why does it sometimes act like, that it's super jittery? What is the deal with it? And the reason why that Android kind of does, which is something that, some developers will kind of agree with, and that was in the development of Android, it's built on Linux. It's a Linux-based system. That's what Android is. It's a Linux-based system. So if you look at the kernel for Android, if you know how to find that, and if you're a developer, you know what I'm talking about. Kernels are built on Linux-based. Okay. Now, I think the new kernel system that Google personally developed themselves, I think it's called Xcron, is much faster than Linux. Way, 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 way faster than Linux. Way faster than Linux. And that's what Project Fuchsia is. It's based on. It's based on this new kernel system, which makes it faster, which makes the operating system and its responses faster. And I did see some videos demoing Project Fuchsia. Project Fuchsia is loaded on Google Home Smart Displays, and it's soon to come to Chromebooks. You're actually able to load it onto a Chromebook. I don't know if it's still in beta, where there's not really anything you can do except look at the user interface. Like, it has no connection to launch a browser. It has no connection to launch, applications or things that are installed onto the software itself. But you can play around with the software just to know how the user interface looks. And in my opinion, the user interface looks kind of clean. It really gets away from this user interface that has, icons everywhere, and a widget here and a widget there and any of that stuff. The traditional Android stuff, which I know if we actually just migrated everyone over to Project Fuchsia, it would be like 7 years and we would start missing the old Android platform because of the way it looked. We're all about, nostalgia. But this is a little bit more clean. Like, you have a background wallpaper, and everything just kind of appears on your home screen like in cards. The last time that I saw the user interface, that's what it's looked like. Now, it could have dramatically changed today. There is a section for applications, for the applications you download. You can get to them and, launch them and everything like that. But a lot of the info is just pretty much on your home display of your device, whether it's a smartphone, Chromebook, smart display, because Project Fuchsia was meant to actually run on IoT. Since if you got a refrigerator with a touchscreen and it has the ability to play YouTube videos while you're in the kitchen cooking and stuff like that, and obviously Project Fuchsia is going to be able to run on that smart display on that smart refrigerator. That's the idea of it. There's an article I have pulled up. It's pulled up from 9 to 5 Google. This was posted last year, but this just kind of goes over a couple of things. So I'm going to read this verbatim. But in the article, it says, those who have followed Fuchsia's journey from its earliest days know that this operating system has far too much potential to be solely relegated to the smart home. Our first look at Fuchsia in action showed Google's bold vision of the future of both mobile and desktop computing. To that end, one of the earliest devices on which you could install Fuchsia was on the Google Pixel Book. Now you guys know why I picked up the Pixel Book, because I'm going to try this. Maybe like next month, I'm going to try putting Fuchsia on it. The Fuchsia team has long been focused on ensuring that existing wealth of Linux and Android apps will carry over to the new operating system. At first, this involved running things in virtual machine, effectively the same way that Chrome OS offers apps from Android, Steam, and Linux. More recently, Google has been working on Starnix, a bold new way to let Android and Linux apps run directly with Fuchsia. So that's something new that I didn't know about. So I knew before that what they were going to try to do was like apps that were Linux-based built. They were, of course, you would have to use a virtual machine because the actual operating system, Fuchsia, runs on a Xcron kernel. So with the Xcron kernel, you wouldn't be able to run anything that's Linux-based on it. However, if you had a virtual machine in it, you would be able to actually run something that is not technically based for the hardware that the device currently has, or at least the operating system itself currently has. So Starnix is that, because that was one of the things I was going to look into, but now we already got the answers to that. So Starnix was basically going to allow Linux-based Android apps to be adaptable directly into devices that have Fuchsia OS, or whatever they're going to call this thing after it's out of its project form. But I think they probably will just stick with Fuchsia. I don't know. Without these solutions, any Fuchsia-powered laptop, phone, tablet would be faced with a chicken and egg problem. That is, no buyer wants a device without their favorite apps, and most app developers don't want to support a platform before it's popular. Instead, Google is seemingly hoping to offer a massive back catalog of apps from day one. Smart move right there from Google. Well, what I already understand. Smart move. They are right. This is kind of the reason why that Windows Mobile died. This was the reason that it died. Windows Mobile didn't die because it was lacking anything. It didn't die because the user interface was ugly. Because trust me, that user interface was badass in my opinion. Having live widgets in the tiles on Windows Mobile was just like, just made sense. That wasn't the reason why Windows Mobile died. The reason why Windows Mobile died is because they didn't have app support. Like when the last Windows phone I had was a Nokia device. I forgot what model number it was, but that was from like way back in the day. And the funny thing about that is that Nokia device was awesome. I loved it. But Windows Mobile only had an official Facebook, an official YouTube, and an official Twitter. Anything else was made by some other developer. Like they had a Snapchat app. But when you looked at the app information before downloading it, it was made by a third-party developer. And a lot of people didn't trust third-party developers. They didn't trust signing into Snapchat that was built by somebody that was, not in the US, because then they were like, oh, if I type in my username and password, they're going to collect that. They're going to hack my account. So that was the death of Windows Mobile. And I guess Google remembers that and recognizes that, because the way that they're approaching Project Fuchsia is making it to where like they know that developers are not going to want to start developing on this thing, because that's an additional thing to develop, right? You already have developers developing for iOS and developing for Android, right? Now, remember back in the day when we had Windows Mobile, that development for Android apps would take a little bit longer. And that's because they primarily focused on iOS, because iPhone was ahead of the game when it came into the OS races, right? iOS was very well used in the United States and was being used around the world. And so they primarily focused on making apps for iOS first, and then they would develop for Android, which would come like months later. Now that's not even the case. Now they're coming out at the same time. Sometimes they come to Android first before they come to iOS. It's a whole different ball game now. But one thing is for sure is that if they were to push out Project Fuchsia, and then they were like, okay, you know what, Snap Inc., Meta, Twitter, like, can you guys start developing an app for our operating system? They know they're not going to do it, because if Fuchsia doesn't make it, if it dies at birth, or it dies, and it's still in its infant stages, then all this development process that these companies developed for would just be a waste of time. And of course, if you were a developer and you were assigned with the task of creating the same app that you developed for Android and iOS, and you were told to develop it for Project Fuchsia, and then Project Fuchsia died 6 months later, wouldn't you get a little bit irritated that you put all your work, all your those hours into creating this app for that platform, and then it just dies off? Because not everything launches as it should. Some companies think that everything is just going to be an explosion, and they're like, yeah, on this date, things are going to blow up and we're going to be like rocking business. And then when that date comes and the event happens, and then it's crickets, you hear shit, nothing, and then other people think like, okay, you know what, maybe only like a few people are going to download this. So let's release it on a small scale. They release it on a small scale, and then one friend tells 5 friends, and 5 friends tells 15 friends, and so on. And then all of a sudden, it's a freaking big thing. Like, you got millions of people downloading your app, using it, signing up for accounts with it. And it's like, whoa, so you just never know where this is going to go. Now, while Google would want to be optimistic and say, hey, our app is going to definitely kick ass in the market, our operating system is going to kick ass in the market, it's not to say that it will. Some people may be too like, I'm Android only, screw that other operating system, and not do it, even though they're both founded by Google. Well, Android was bought for Google, but Project Fuchsia is developed by Google. Morgan, what's up, man? So that's a very smart move for Google to do it that way, basically to create this new thing called StarNix, and basically just make any Linux-based app on Android compatible with Fuchsia OS without the need to run it in like a virtual machine mode. So it makes it directly adaptable to the Fuchsia OS software. So that's good. Again, the Xcron kernel, I hear, is supposed to be like 1,000 times faster than any Linux-based kernel. Like, one of the fastest kernels I know of that was, developed by third-party developers. I don't know if you guys remember this kernel. It's hard to really put the name out there, just because the internet is very sensitive. But I'll just do it anyways. The name of that kernel that was super fucking fast was called Anthrax. The Anthrax kernel that was built for the HTC Evo V4G, which was Virgin Mobile's name for the Evo 3D from HTC. That kernel was like super sick. And you pair that up with the right custom ROM, and it's like I think it's like CyanogenMod. I forgot what version of CyanogenMod, but Double Toast with the Anthrax kernel was like boom, no hiccups, no jitter, no jank. Like, we got a peek into what smartphones were going to be like in 2019, back in 2011, with that custom ROM and kernel pairing. So, but that was probably like the fastest one, and I think that one was still Linux based. Yeah, it was Linux based. It was a Linux based kernel, and it was lickety split fast. So, if the Xcron kernel from Google is mentioned to be like 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than any Android Linux based kernel, means a lot. Like, how fast is this thing? Now, for those that have a Google home display that was smart, you're already using Fuchsia, because they had pushed out Fuchsia to those home display, the original first generation home display, and apparently to my Pixelbook OG right here, it has the ability to run Fuchsia. So I'm actually going to look into it on installing it on there, see if I'm able to dual boot it, because I do have 256 gigabytes of internal storage on my Pixelbook OG. That I may try to see if I can allocate half of that hard drive half of it for Fuchsia, and then the other half for, Chrome OS. And yeah, just pretty much just run it like that, I mean, 256, right? You subtract, divide that by 2 is 128, right? Which is still ample storage, because I don't do a whole lot, but I just want to be able to play around with Fuchsia and see what it's all about. So I'm actually today going to be looking into that and installing Fuchsia on my Pixelbook OG. And if I'm able to do it, then of course I'm going to run a damn video talking about it. But yeah, so and they continue on verbatim. Of course, Fuchsia can't rely on Android and Linux apps forever. Google knows it. Beyond that, the company would likely want to make a strong showing in support of a new operating system, and native Fuchsia versions of popular Google apps would go a long way. Now, they kind of just talk about a little bit of things here. So they made improvements to the Visual Studio Code plugin. The extension has been downloaded just shy of 500 times. They're just kind of going over some of the other stuff, basically. So, in all, before all this stuff goes down, the Anthrax kernel sounds unhealthy. If you're looking at it from that point of view, but I mean, for those people that actually like fucked around with custom ROMs and modding Android devices, man, that fucking kernel was fast. It was sickly fast. Okay, and I'm fucking nerding out on you guys right now, just even thinking about those days, because that's initially that's what my channel was founded on, was showing custom ROMs and stuff like that I was able to install on devices that I owned, and how much better they made them. Of course, we don't have that problem today. The Android operating system and the components that these companies are using have actually, made the experience far, far better than what it was, especially for a device in 2011. So that's why there's no really need to flash custom ROMs. Like, the only reason that people flash custom ROMs today is just to keep an outdated device up to date, right? So like, I really, 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 really like my Pixel 4 XL. I really like this phone, okay? Of course, this is a Verizon model, so the bootloader is locked. However, if the bootloader wasn't locked, you bet your ass I would be flashing into Android 13 right now. And then when development for Android 14 was stable for the Pixel 4 XL, I'd be flashing into Android 14. That's just me. But okay. I am going to cut it here. So I do want to thank those who popped in and watched the live stream podcast. If you're coming in for the YouTube partnership program requirements that changed, it's at the very beginning of this live stream. But I'll reiterate what the new qualifications are to become a YouTube partner and monetize your videos. You must have 500 subscribers to your channel. You must have had 3 video uploads in the last 90 days. So it is 90 days, I'm reading here. And you must have at least 3 hours of watch time or 7 million views on YouTube Shorts, whichever content you're creating. But those are the requirements. If you meet all those requirements, you can apply for YouTube partnership. And then once accepted into the partnership program, you must create an AdSense account and you must begin monetizing your videos and following even more guidelines into creating content than when you were not a content creator, in that fashion of being a YouTube partner where you could break the rules to a certain degree, But yeah, so good luck to everyone out there with these new requirements that are going to be trying for YouTube partnership. I pray and send many blessings that, you reach your goals and you get accepted in. I am very interested in seeing the next generation of YouTube content creators, as I myself am from the old generation that is being phased out, obviously. So my thing now is to show more support to new content creators. So this next generation coming in. Anyways, thanks a lot for checking out this live stream. I will see you guys next week, Friday, with another one. As I come up with an idea, obviously I will set a basically I will set up the live stream so you guys will see that it's posted to the channel and the countdown for how many days till we go live again. I'll come up with some ideas of what to talk about in the next podcast. I'll also be looking at ideas on Twitter. So if you got an idea, just tag me in a tweet, post your tweet. I'll find it. And if it's something I want to run with and talk about, it will be featured in on an episode. But that is pretty much it. Last thing that I will say, anything that has to do with a specific company that, Bobby asked earlier, I cannot talk about it, cannot answer questions about it, can't do none of that stuff, okay? So just letting you guys know and appreciate you guys on that, if you guys can respect that. But until next time, I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys very much. Now we'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.